Rather than lads, welcome back to Cossy's Arsenal podcast. My name is Cossy. Allow me to bring you the latest around Alexander Zinchenko. Kind of breaking news from DUSTED and The Athletic. We now have a full agreement on a 4-year contract with Alexander Zinchenko until 2026. The player will sign for Arsenal after doing his medicals, and that should be very soon. Now, according to DUSTED, this is what he's put out on his official Twitter account. Arsenal finalizing a move for Alexander Zinchenko from Manchester City after reaching an agreement in principle on a 4-year contract. Fee £30 million plus £2 million achievable on add-ons. Now personal terms in place too, just like I reported. If all goes well, if all goes to plan, medical, then he will be signed as per The Athletic, hashtag Manchester City and also hashtag Arsenal Football Club. That is the latest around this one. Alexander Zinchenko never in doubt, like I reported yesterday and today from Fabrizio Romano and from Ben Jacobs. It was never a doubt that Arsenal are going to sign Alexander Zinchenko early this week. It is a Monday. The only things that have been catching this deal and holding the deal have been the length of the contract, which is now agreed and set to be 4 years. Now, I don't understand why it is going to be 4 years. I thought it could have been 5 years plus another year to extend, but Arsenal have decided it is going to be 4 years. It's a 25-year-old player. In my opinion, it should be 5 years. It should be 6 years as well. But a 4-year contract has now been agreed between Arsenal and Alexander Zinchenko. There is no problem there. As reported on Saturday, personal terms already in place, never an issue between Arsenal and the Ukrainian player. A couple of teams have tried to hijack this deal, including Man United, including I was about to say Manchester City, including AC Milan, including the likes of Tottenham Hotspur. A couple of clubs, as reported by the agent of the player, were interested in Alexander Zinchenko, and that shows you the quality of this lad. However much many Premier League rivals are trolling him and they're trying to trash and throw dust to this move, but it's a very wonderful signing from Arsenal and great piece of business to add to this Arsenal side. So talk to me, how do you feel about Alexander Zinchenko moving to Arsenal? Is it one that really excites you? Are you excited? Are you thrilled by the news that now everything has been ironed out? The moment Arsenal agreed a deal for the price with Manchester City, in my opinion, I just knew this one was going to be a done deal, unless Chelsea come in and throw a lot of money on the table, unless another club comes in and turns his head. This one was already done and dusted. So personal terms already agreed. We had a few things to iron out in terms of what exactly is going to be the length of the contract and where the player is going to play. Mikel Arteta called the player directly, talked to him, and reassured them of his role in that Arsenal side and the position he's going to be playing. We've been told that Alexander Zinchenko wants to play as a midfielder, predominantly as a central midfielder, the same role he's sharing on Ukraine, because we've done that video today on the channel, the complete 4-3-3 formation, and we've looked at how he lines up with Ukraine and how he impacts their play as a central midfielder. So it is likely he comes into Arsenal and is deployed as a central midfielder. Whether that means anything for the Yuri Tillemans deal, whether that means anything for Kieran Tierney, we will wait and see. But obviously this move means players like Nuno Tavares, Cedric Soares are going to be very likely to leave Arsenal this summer. And for me, it's a massive upgrade to the squad. I don't think this one is a very different one from the one we've done with Gabriel Jesus. I don't think it's a very different one. Both players in the same age, but I mean, they're very young, 25. That is when the player is entering into their prime, but massively experienced, and that is what Mikel Arteta spoke about at the end during the business end of last campaign. We want to add quality, we want to add depth, but also most importantly, we want to add some experience to balance their team. And that is what Alexander Zinchenko gives you. And that is what Gabriel Jesus gives you in this Arsenal side. A lot of experience and a lot of quality. Now, the fact that he's a leader is one thing that we will talk about much of the season and much of his time at this Arsenal side. Mikel has been speaking around the leadership qualities, and he says, with leadership, we've discussed it externally, and we've found out that it will not work. So we are discussing it internally. So look, I think it's only natural that with this young group of players, the likes of Fabio Vieira now joining the team, the likes of Ramsdale, the likes of Ben White, Gabriel Magalhaes, it is always going to be very difficult to pick out a leader. We talked about the captaincy and the criteria. If you watch this channel, you're going to learn a lot, because we're talking about the captaincy and the criteria that many skippers are voted through or are decided through or are crowned through. And we looked at things like seniority, we looked at things like age, we looked at things like maturity, and we also looked at being homegrown and being one of the most experienced players in the side. Now, with this Arsenal side having more of the clean out and clear out, you're going to find yourselves that most of the most experienced players are going to be going out through the door. So we're going to be relying on the few young leaders in the team. Martin Odegaard, for example, Alan Ramsdale, the other, and Gabriel Magalhaes. And also, we will rely heavily on the new players that come from elsewhere, come from these big sides, Manchester City, FC Porto, those big sides that have been winning and leading, in their respective divisions. I think Fabio Vieira, coming from FC Porto, exactly knows what it means to play for a title-winning side, and he knows what it means to play for a top side. Alexander Zinchenko, Gabriel Jesus as well, they know the kind of pressure you're going to go through to play for Manchester City, the kind of pressure that demands and piles upon you every single game. And for me, that is the key point here in signing Alexander Zinchenko. That bit of experience and that bit of leadership. And you cannot also forget that he's captaining that Ukrainian side, despite the fact that he's playing in that midfield, by the way, a position that he doesn't really play for Manchester City, but he's also captaining that Manchester City side. So there are lots of things to get from Alexander Zinchenko, a left back that I think understands Mikel Arteta's system more than Kieran Tierney. Don't get me wrong, Tierney has been absolutely flamboyant when it comes to playing that inverted fullback position, in that inverted fullback position. When it comes to Alexander Zinchenko, he is going to be absolutely better because he's a central midfielder. Naturally, he's been trained as an attacking midfielder, and he predominantly plays as a central midfielder for Ukraine. And of course, he's been playing as a left back for Manchester City. So literally means you're bringing in a hybrid of quality, a hybrid of qualities into this Arsenal side in Alexander Zinchenko. For me, I can't be more excited. I really cannot be more excited. Probably not one many Arsenal fans will get on with in the start, but one that will be like Aaron Ramsdale. You will like him as time goes on. You will understand him as time goes on. Like I've already said on this channel, you do not hate a player because you don't understand them or you do not know anything about them. It is better you do some research about them, give them some time, see what they can do, and eventually you'll find out that sooner or later they add some beautiful pieces to the puzzle. So look, if we talk about Alexander Zinchenko and what Arsenal will be getting, it's a lot. It's really, really a lot. The versatility, we've talked about it, in the midfield and also in those defensive areas. We've talked about the maturity, the leadership. We've talked about that kind of relationship with Mikel Arteta. It's something that you want as Mikel Arteta as a manager. He's not yet that well established. So I do not think many players are going to be appealed or he's going to be appealing to many players around the market and around Europe. Come and play for me. I'm not yet an established manager, but this is what I can do. But the fact that he can pull Manchester City players away from that system, players that he's played with, that he's worked with as a coach under Pep Guardiola, and players that really understand him. It means two things. One, he's signing players that he really understands what they do and what they bring to the side. And then the other thing is that he's bringing players that understand him as a coach, as a manager, that believe in him. And that's why, according to Fabrizio, many clubs wanted the player, but no one was ever going to sign him apart from Arsenal Football Club. He chose Arsenal because he understands Mikel, and he feels the reunion between him and Mikel Arteta will be very, very great for his career. So now we stop blaming Lisandro Martinez, right, for not signing for Arsenal, because at the end of the day, there is nothing better. And look, when you got into a new system, it's a long journey to develop, to adapt to the system, and settle in. And when you're like Lisandro Martinez coming into a Man United side in the Premier League, in a new country, in a new environment, in a bigger side, you want to go to a club where you know someone. And Erik ten Hag being a key factor there, I absolutely now understand. Because with Gabriel Jesus and Alexander Zinchenko, Mikel Arteta has been an absolute advantage for us to nick these deals away from the hands of Chelsea, Milan, Madrid, and a couple of other clubs that feel the hunger to sign and get themselves on, get their hands onto that quality. So Alexander Zinchenko joining Arsenal. We are waiting for the medical. Of course, I'll definitely let you know when the medical is being done and when it is scheduled and when we're expecting it. But right now, from David Ornstein, there is no further announcement. Arsenal are finalizing the deal for Alexander Zinchenko from Manchester City after reaching an agreement in principle on a 4-year contract. Fee up to £30 million guaranteed, plus £2 million in achievable add-ons, and now personal terms not a problem anymore. If all goes out to plan, the medical will be held very, very soon, and then he will sign his contracts as a new Arsenal player. So unless something changes, Alexander Zinchenko is an Arsenal player now. Absolutely. He is an Arsenal player now. But I think, the question here to ask is what comes next? Yes, there's been a lot of speculation. And why I want this one out of the way, by the way, before we sign out, is I want to see how unserious or how serious Arsenal are with Youri Tielemans. With all these Man United, stepping in, with all Leicester City trying to give him a new contract, will Arsenal's ears now be alerted? Will we be on high alert and try and get that deal done as well? Because we've seen, what the Fabio Vieira and Zinchenko deals have told us is that Arsenal can complete a deal within less than 72 hours if they wanted to. So the Youri Tielemans deal is not a deal that we cannot do. We can't complete it because it is easier than any other deal. Probably the same as Alexander Zinchenko. Around £30 million. Player wants to leave Manchester City and join Arsenal, as well as Tielemans leaving Leicester and join Arsenal as well. Personal terms not an issue. I do not get the reason as to why this one is dragging on. But with Alexander Zinchenko out of the way, we're going to find ourselves understanding why. That is the question. Why? David Ornstein, thank you so much for the beautiful work. I think it's been very, very phenomenal and key in our transfer summer this season. Fabrizio Roman as well has been a key journalist in this one. And it's now done. It's now done. Gargantuan, but done. Who comes in next? Tielemans, a new winger, a backup right back, lots of players Arsenal being linked with. Mikel thinks the squad for the Premier League is not yet complete. We are waiting patiently.